people that are going to win on that side, right, are problem solvers. And if we
Right.
can identify the problem or the obstacle and then in return find the solution, that's what you want to do when we talk about positioning ourselves.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Good morning again, everybody. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF. I'm Dave Fanale. Chris Stiles is with us, and we're going to talk real estate like we always do for 412 episodes. I'm really excited today. Today's guest understands something a lot of people in real estate eventually learn, but often too late. Volume alone doesn't build a business. Systems do, standards do, leadership does, without question. Chris has helped drive more than $105 million in sales while operating inside one of New Jersey's most active virtual team environments, where speed matters, accountability matters, and excuses usually don't survive very long. As director of sales for the Oz Group, he's not just helping agents close deals, he's helping build an environment where performance has to become repeatable, not accidental. Chris is the man. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, man. Thanks you so much for having me on. That was a better intro than I could have given. So thank you so much.
Oh, good. So I'm glad you liked it. That is always my goal, is to talk truth about the person that's on. So today, you know, man, you've been in business for a while. You've been with the Oz Group for a while. Talk to me about where you came from, though, because, you know, a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to tell my story, or who gives a shit about the story of the journal or whatever it is. The journey, I care, because it means a lot to agents getting started. It means a lot to agents that are stuck, you know, because we all have the ups, downs, all arounds in our businesses, and everyone needs to understand they're not alone. Chris, talk to us about your journey, how you started, how you got to the Oz Group, and why you're so successful.
Yeah, I think that journey is, that's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm, why I'm in the role I am today, and kind of on the team building side is because of that journey. And so my journey goes back to, I was always going to do real estate ever since I was in high school. My high school girlfriend, her family flipped houses and brought me on appointments, and I saw that. And like a lot of people that come from that generation, we got into the business. Oh, I want to flip houses. And I didn't get into it right away. The market crashed. And when I did get into it, we'll be on 14 years this August. When I got into it, I learned really quick that it was a different business than what I had thought. It was a relationship business. It was a lead generation business. And for my first few years, there was a lot of failure, man. I probably made 50 grand in my first 3 years combined. I didn't have the network. I didn't know how to prospect. I didn't know anything there. And then I found the right environment where, somebody was able to help me out and kind of get me on a trajectory with my career. And a lot of the things that I've learned over time, I was able to actually do it in the field. And then I found the team model, and I really got curious about the team model. It's something that was very interesting to me. So I got into a really big team. I learned everything about running a team, outbound prospecting, inbound lead generation. And I really started to see my own growth. All along, I just became a resource for agents, and agents would always ask for my help. And I started to enjoy that side of the business and the lead agent development more than maybe being a realtor. And so I became a director of lead generation for a very big RE/MAX in New Jersey. And that's kind of how I got my start in the online lead generation world, along with my previous experience with outbound prospecting, and then combining that. And ultimately, years ago, when Zillow Flex started to become a thing, I started to see a lot of the big teams in New Jersey that were doing a lot of volume. They were involved in Zillow Flex. So I started to see out those teams, and I met Joe Oz, who has been a mentor of mine ever since. And we've about 3-4 months, we partnered together after getting to know each other. And at the end of 2023, going into 2024, we were at about 63 million in sales volume. And then last year, we ended up finishing at 109 within 2 years. So over 40% growth in a couple of years, and continuing to grow.
So part of growth as you said, so I want to clear this up for everybody because the Oz Group and Align are part of our growth is not only doing more business, it's bringing in the right people to do more business. So in your growth from 60 some to 109, were there a lot more people involved? Were there but just a lot more production amongst agents?
I would have to count then you're going to make me go back and count the exacts on this because
No.
it's a really good question. So I'm going to look into it after, but no, I would say that we did it with less. We did more with less, and that was the strategy. That's how I wanted to approach it from day one, was to do more with less, right? And the people that you have on the bus is the most important thing, and the right people on the bus. We want full-time agents that are 100% committed. So we're not for everybody. And yeah, I think we've done with less. We started to get people, some of our agents to produce at a higher level. We had an agent last year that did 31 units and over 15 million in sales volume. So we've kind of, less is more a lot of time, and it allows us to focus on our time, the agents that are fully committed.
I just want to detail one quick thing as a sidestep here. You mentioned the phrase on the bus, right? So if people don't understand what that means, it's a phrase we hear a lot. And the phrase was started in a book. I cannot remember the author. It was Good to Great, right?
Yes.
I actually am looking at the book right now, and for some reason I have 2 copies. No idea why, but I have 2 copies of it. I read it a long time ago. It was brought to my attention by a former CEO and president of Century 21 by the name of Van Davis. Van was an entrepreneur. He was a visionary. But it talks about having the right people in the right positions, not EOS, but the right people working together. And if you're not the right person, you got to go. And that's one of the things I see in the teams that are extremely successful, such as the Oz Group and Align, and a lot of the ones we see at our company, EXP, as well as some really good ones at other companies. So it's just really important to have the right people. Is that a hard thing, Chris, to have the right people, to know the right people, right seat, right person?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it's a hard thing to find those people, I would say. I also think those people raise their hands really clearly and they separate themselves. So when we find them, you find them, right? And then there's people that are all in, right? So I think it's hard to get there because of the industry we're in. We're definitely in a me industry, a me kind of industry. Yep. So that's always going to be a challenge there. But I mean, we've found the right people. We have a core group of team members who have helped attract the right people to us as well. So winners want to be with winners.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And okay, so I want to go through a couple of things you said. And in your first 3 years of business, you probably made about $50,000. When I was getting into business, and as I owned my own brokerage for 21 years, Century 21, as I mentioned Van earlier, the thing is that everybody would tell every agent coming into the business, well, I hope you have enough money for 3 to 6 months because that's how long it's going to be before you make any money. Chris, how true is that today?
I think it's true. I also think it's a lot easier to get going than it was when I got in. I think, I think at a certain point of the business, there's a massive gap in leadership. There was not the team models have helped fill that gap. So there's a lot of people now that are running really high level teams that are based off of leads, training, support. And that wasn't as much when I first got into the industry. Right. When I started to really learn that team model, and then the teams that had training, support, leads, etc. So go ahead. So how hard is it right now? Like we've seen agents come into and within 60 days they're out there in the we're meeting more people. Some of our new agents are meeting more people in the first 3, 4, 5 months in the business than I did in that first 3, 4 years.
Right. That's my point, and the reason for my question, because one of the things I had a conversation with a few weeks ago, we had Jess Lenoble on, and we talked about how not easy, but easier it is to see a new agent just pass up a top agent in the first 12 to 24 months because of what they're learning and how they're doing. And the scale is different. The attitude is different for the most part. Do you see a change? I mean, you've been licensed, what you said, 14 years this August. right? Do you see a change in the attitude of the person getting into this business or the ones that are being successful? That's a double question, so to speak.
I think the habits, I mean, yes, in some ways, but I think a lot of the habits are the same, right? Like it's the basics of the people who are going to be successful in the business are, there's people that are going to get after it and people that are going to be very proactive. It's, I got into the business and I expected things to come to me. And if you're an agent that comes in day one and you're generating leads and you're having more conversations, et cetera, it's going to happen faster for you. We're in an environment now where we can get people out there in the field pretty much immediately through online lead generation. So we're able to get people into the field and start to gain experience from day one, where that wasn't as much of a thing maybe 14 years ago.
So, all right. So I've seen team models that I'm a part of a team model that absolutely works. Yep. You're a part of a team model that absolutely works. And our goal is, the newer agents or the agents that need support, they're getting someone, they're not asking for it before they're actually being offered it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in some of the teams that we see. Because a lot of the teams are run just like brokerages, right? Let's get the numbers in. Maybe they'll do a couple of deals. We'll invite them to our parties. They can drink our coffee, drink our liquor, whatever it is. That's just like a brokerage. And that's what I had, right? Yeah. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is that I believe that there can be actually exponential growth in year 1, 2, and 3, where before it was going to be 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. I will tell you that there's a prime example of this is one of the agents, Christian Gonzalez from the Align team, who I believe his first year he did 11 million. And that's pretty cool, right? And it's possible, right? It's just a matter of, this is your job. This is what you do. You also mentioned something about outbound prospecting, inbound lead generation. Talk to me about what worked for you and how you work in your team about outbound prospecting.
So outbound prospecting, yeah. So that's where once I started to learn about the team model, that's really was a big thing, right? Is outbound prospecting. And where the background I come from, expired, FSBO, circle prospecting, I became more on the circle prospecting side. So that's where I started to see more success on the outbound side. And then from the inbound lead generation, that was just all the online leads, realtor.com, Zillow, and what's become now Zillow Preferred.
So, all right. So is Zillow outbound or inbound?
Zillow's definitely inbound, right? Zillow's the inbound where you're going to keep your phone ringing. And then there's the outbound side of the business, right? Where for us, yeah, expired FSBOs, but circle prospecting is where I started to see the most amount of success.
Is it something that still works today in 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. We have multiple listings on the market right now. We're building pipeline every day with circle prospecting, most specifically around our listings. So yeah, it absolutely works today. Maybe our pickup rates are a little bit lower than they used to be, but it's still something that works. And yeah, it's always going to be with your listings. There's always going to be neighbors. There's always going to be people within the neighborhood that care about the pricing of that house or what that house sold for. So when we can reach out to the direct neighbors where we can kind of update them on their stock, so to say, that's something that they do care about. So that's how we lead with our circle prospecting calls, is about, hey, there's 5 buyers missing that lost out on this one. Will you ever consider, if you got an offer that was acceptable to you, would you consider getting your home on the market and getting it sold? So a lot of what we've done is around that. And where we were doing it in 2021, I would say, $50 million worth of listings probably off circle prospecting.
That's a big number. That's 50% of your number, almost 50% of your number.
Well, that's 2021. It's a different snenario now. Yeah, that's just previous experience. But right now with circle prospecting, our ISA is doing a lot of it. Our agents doing around our listing. But I would say, we've had 29 listings this year so far. So outbound prospecting, probably, I would say 20-30%.
Yeah. So that's really important. That's a big part of your business, right? You talked a little bit about the team model, and I talked a little bit about it. You have a team, which we talk about, virtual team environment, right? So we all know that, teams were in existence for years. And when it first started, everybody would say, "Well, I want to start a team. I want to do," which was I always thought was a lot of bullshit. But because I saw it as a broker owner, agents would come in, they'd be in their first 6 months, they do a deal, says, "Yeah, I want to start a team." Good for you. But what we saw during COVID and after COVID, we saw this thing called virtual environment, right? And your team is basically virtual. Talk to me about that and how it works. Don't people want a place to go?
Yeah. I would say people think they do in a lot of instances, so how it all started with us, we're an EXP in a virtual model. Our CEO, Joe Oz, he actually lives in Orange County, California. And he was running, before him and I met, he was running the team virtually through Orange County. So that's kind of like the basis of it. And everything that we've done, I was a part of an expansion model previously. So we were using Zoom in 2018, 2017, and that's how we were building back then. And so it was something I was familiar with. And then during COVID, I was running a small team then, and that's when we were doing a lot of like circle prospecting. So we were circle prospecting on Zoom anyway, and it's led to me meeting Joe being on the other side of the country and being able to develop a model that can build not just here in New Jersey, but potentially in other places. So it's kind of created a foundation where we're not limited to a market. We're not limited to a certain office. We're able to be in different places. So we have a lot of our agents are Monmouth, Ocean. We do a lot of business in Middlesex and then Morris and Essex County. So virtual is our way of building that camaraderie amongst each other. We have a lot of agents on our team that have really good relationships with one another. They've all met virtually, and we've built a pretty good culture virtually. Don't get me wrong, we still have stuff in person. We have our sales rally, we do our top producers event. We're in person, but like mostly our trainings and our day-to-day is all virtual.
Yeah, so I know exactly what you mean. I mean, we're the team I am with is in 8 states. So
Yeah.
And we started a Florida team all virtually. That we're nobody's in an office or anything. Okay, so one of the things that you need in a team, and one of the things you need to help agents grow, and we talked a lot about this the other day, and it's the word leadership. There's so many ways and so many meanings to this word leadership, and the reason I say it like that is, okay, so there's leadership of agents. There's leading the agents. There's leading by example. There's the old expression that I used when I had my brokers. It was managed by walking around. Managed by walking around. MYWA. Yeah, whatever. But to me, it shows leadership. I mean, look, how does leadership and work for you? How does leadership work in your organization, and how important is it to you?
It's really important to me to start there. It's really important to me because I think that's what ultimately I saw work for me, and what was missing when I got into the business, or maybe it wasn't when I got into the business, the environments I was around. Where I really started to grow is when I had leadership. I think there's a lot of agents that are out of the business now, and if they were in the right place, in the right rooms with the right people, they would have stayed into the business. And I think there was a really, there's still a gap in leadership in the industry in general. Like I said earlier, I think we've closed that gap a bit, but it's agent development, right? We break it down in our team to 3 things: is leads, training, support. And we try to do a really good job of each one of those. Is providing leads, being able to get you out in the field right away, and helping you convert those leads, working with you on those through pipeline reviews, and being active in your business. The training aspect, we dive a lot into, fast forward trainings, plus we have our own team trainings, and the support on the back end so that they're not through paperwork, or we have a listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, operations staff. So trying to take everything off the agent's plate so they can solely focus on the things that are going to create, obviously, income. So I'm meeting with our agents weekly, bi-weekly on one-on-ones for a lot of our top performing agents, but we're also on group pipeline reports. I know what everybody's pipeline looks like. I know what deals that they're actively working on, what deals they have into the funnel, and help manage and where to spend their time at, right? If sometimes an agent will have a good nurture database of 9 to 12 month business, which is great, but they don't have a lot of right now business. So we need to start taking actions to get business right now. So we start to see the gaps in their business, and I'm just constantly working with their agents on their pipeline, knowing what it looks like, knowing what their income projects throughout the year. So having people really in it with you. I'm very available for our agents when they're going on listing appointments. They're writing up offers. I still love to get my hands into all of that stuff.
Right.
So sometimes it's just that little inch. Sometimes like I could come in and we can have what conversation are you having with the listing agent about this, multiple offer situation we're in? How are you presenting this data to your clients in some of these markets where we're seeing homes go 25, 30, 35%, 135% over market? How are we having that conversation with our client and helping them through that, helping them pull that data? And, how do you interpret the data to your clients so they do the things necessary? How can we structure our offer better? There's always going to be room. We believe two heads are better than one in those situations. And I think as leaders, we can do a good job when our agents get it down to that red zone or to the goal line to help push them in, and just being there, having that support. And that's something I think we've done extremely well. And I'm in there day to day. I'm in on every deal.
All right. So at your level, you're working with all types of agents, and you're building agents that are able to bring in the leads, bring in the transactions, and close the transactions. Are you building closers, or are you building decision makers? And how does leadership work into there?
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall, if you're building, you want to build leaders within your organization. I mean, I think that's the next step for us in our growth. I mean, I had a front row seat to leaders leading leaders. Joe Oz has kind of led this charge, and he's led the hell out of this thing with me, and I've got a front row seat to that and developing other agents within our organization. So you want to develop business owners, right? A mentor of mine called it developing CEOs, not employees. And like everybody's a business owner, so we want to give them resources to grow a business.
One of the important things, and you've talked about it already, and I just want to expand on a little bit, is talking about it's about mentorship, it's about training, it's about having the quote unquote events, whether they're virtual or not, I really don't care. And you mentioned something that I think a lot of us in our position hold near and dear. It's called the fast forward movement, right? You mentioned we have fast forward trainings, et cetera. And this is, I guess this is a plug for us, and that's fine. But one of the things that I've never seen in my 21 years as being a broker owner of a franchise was that I did not see agents giving to agents. We saw events that were, you had the corporation bringing in their top people to talk on stage, and they would never really tell you what they did. They just said that, my assistant handles this, and this, and yada, yada, yada. And I always thought those events were a waste of time. I thought they were bullshit, simply because you didn't find out what was going on, right? One of the things that I see, and you talk about this, expand on this a little bit, is the fast forward masterminds, what you guys do with training. This is really important because you're not a brokerage. And neither are we. We're not brokerages. We're like in a brokerage.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how important it is for you and your team and everybody in any organization to be able to collaborate.
Yeah.
As well as, you compete a little bit, but it's collaboration over competition. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say fast forward movement is one of the top 3 things that have changed my life and have grown our business where we are right now. You want to talk about leaders, developing leaders, right? There's so many leaders there that have just given back for where I'm not even financially aligned with some of them, right? It's not like, it's just a culture of collaboration where if everybody gives to everybody opens up their playbook, we're all going to grow. And I mean, Elias Astuto runs one of the biggest teams in the country, and that's one of my dear friends in real estate now, and anything I need, I can just reach out to him. Lindsay Stevens, Brett Sikora. Every time I'm with him, I ask him a million questions. And so many agents, Dylan Anaka, who's not even in fast forward movement at EXP.
Exactly. He's been around broadcast. Yeah.
Dear friend of mine. So it's just, this culture of collaboration that has been life altering. We have Shannon Maxwell. She's helping me out, growing our operations right now. And we're not, even financial aid lines, just somebody I call for help, vice versa. So yeah, it's this huge network that we should all be super proud of. I think it's the best thing in real estate, and that's not a shameless plug. That's just how I feel.
No, I agree too. And I mentioned about, I try to build it as something that happened. It is absolutely a movement. And one of the things I really love about it, man, is that you said it. Most of the people have no financial interest in what we're doing and what we're asking, but they're going to take the time. You mentioned Elias, right? Yeah, there's probably some financial interest because I'm way down on the chain with Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer and them, but that's fine too. But one of the things I see is, Kenny Trung, Fast Movement, Fast Company that we were talking about before with Elias. It's just one of the greatest things that we have in the collaborative effect. And here you are. A lot of those people have been on this broadcast. I want to go into something now about helping agents win. We talked about, a lot of people talk about now, instead of pricing your listing well, they use this word positioning. Okay. It's just like, I don't know if that's the same thing as saying, I'm going to do a CMA for your home, or I'm going to do an equity analysis for your home. They're both the same thing. But I do not believe that positioning a listing and positioning an agent for success are the same thing. Talk to me about positioning the agent first.
Yeah, I mean, positioning the agent, yeah, that's completely different than positioning. You want to, like, when I talk about like positioning, there's just so many things we can do strategically walking into, say, we're going on a listing appointment, to position ourselves better to earn that client's trust, right? Whether that positioning ourselves as an expert, position ourselves as our team's experience or our agent's experience prior, so we're not walking through the door as strangers. So trying to position ourselves before we even get in there, positioning ourselves with the questions that we ask before we get there, right? We want to understand the seller's goals, right? Understand the motivation behind those goals, and then understanding what obstacles are in their way to help them achieve those goals. So if we can do those things, we're ultimately there. The people that are going to win on that side, right, are problem solvers. And if we can identify the problem or the obstacle, and then in return find the solution, that's what you want to do when we talk about positioning ourselves. It's positioning ourselves to find out what's really important to this person and how we can really help. And where we could really, because it's not always the numbers. It's not always the numbers. Right. It is, how can we help solve this problem? And for everybody, it's different. So by asking questions prior to getting there, asking questions while we're there, we start to understand and really do the extra things. We have a lot of people that move out of state, right? Or junk removal with some of our properties that we get offers, and they just have a whole bunch of junks there. And it's the whole process of moving, not the desire to move. They need help with that. They need guidance. Like I talked to an agent yesterday, is like, we have to get a timeline on this. Like, they need to know by June 1st, if we do, to position ourselves better on the market, we need to start doing things now, right? And we'll come in and we'll help you with movers. We'll help you with referrals on junk removal, or help refer you to that agent over there in Delaware to start to see your options over there. So there's so many different things that we can do, or everybody's obstacles are going to be different, and we have to identify what those are, and then in turn provide them solutions.
Yeah, it's really important. It's really important because you're talking about the nitty gritty of the business and the little things that really make a difference. And we don't get anywhere. We don't get the answers to this unless we're asking questions. We're asking the right questions, right? We have to really, it's almost psychology in an effect, where you want to be able to know exactly what people are thinking. And you can only get there by asking questions. I always tell people, if you're telling people about yourself, if you're not asking a question, it's all about you, and nobody really gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
What they care about is themselves. Number one, they like to hear their name. Number two, they want to talk about themselves. They want to talk about what their desires and their fears are. And it's hard. It's hard if you're talking about yourself and talking too much to really get into that. Because basically what you're doing, Chris, is that you're, and I can say this in so many different ways. You're positioning the agent for success, the way you're training and mentoring them, and then they understand and they can pass it on to others. How do you guys basically handle? Do you do this? Do you do this in events? Do you do this in prospecting? Do you prospect together? With your team, man? What are you doing together, and how are you helping each other grow your businesses?
Yeah, so I'd say a lot of like our pipeline reviews would be part of like the day to day of what we do. And like for instance, we have a listing call. We have every Thursday we have our group of listing agents, and we're going around the room. We're talking about we're not talking about numbers or sometimes negotiating commissions, but we're not always talking about the numbers. We're talking about, hey, here was the scenario, and how did we approach that?
Right.
So everybody's talking about their listing appointments from the weekend. What's the next actionable item we can take to get that listing? What problem do we need to solve? Like, hey, I'm going on a listing appointment today. I talked to the seller. Here's their scenario. They're going to be a longer term nurture, or they're interviewing multiple agents, and then we get group input to help everybody. So you're getting it from like different people. And then a lot of our top agents, our team, they're helping everybody on the team. We have an offer advice channel. So if somebody's working in a certain market that somebody else on the team may know better, we have different mentors on our team that'll reach out, help with them. If they're going on a listing appointment, they may call somebody else on our team. But a lot of our collaboration is going to come on the pipeline, on our pipeline reviews and our day-to-day. We have a weekly meeting as well where we share all of our wins. So if you got a listing signed, you got an offer accepted, we walk everybody through, how did you get that offer accepted? What did that look like? What were was it a multiple offer situation? Were you able to do a good job negotiating it? What happened differently there? Why did you win that offer? What were the things that stood out? So we're constantly discussing those wins and collaborating within another on the day-to-day like that.
Yeah, and what everybody should think about when you hear what Chris just said, and I want you to roll them out. If you get to this point, go back to that and just understand that what is being done here is that everybody's getting feedback and getting support in, how they got a listing, what they did to get the listing, or if they feel that there's going to be difficulty. Everybody's sharing back and forth, and that is the basis of collaboration. Not to bring up that word again, but the point is that you're getting the support from others as we see a lot more. And this is the team model that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I mean, even for myself, I'm doing the same thing. Before I take a listing, before I work with a buyer or do an offer, I'm talking to others about it. Before I talk to the listing agent, before I talk to the seller, I'm giving them the scenarios that I got. And what we're doing is we're collaborating and say, Dave, this is the best way to handle it. Joe, this is the best way to handle it. Chris, this is the best way to handle it. This is how I would do it. And you're getting other opinions. And I think in the team environment that you guys have created at the Oz Group, you've got the back and forth, and you've got the support that, from each other, which I think is just as important as leadership. Would you agree with that?
Oh man, there's only so much they want to hear from me, right? Like, yeah, you have to have different people within the organization. It definitely can't be one. So it definitely needs to be different people. And that's where, growing leaders starts to become really important. That's probably, as we go from the book you referenced before, good to great, that's probably one of our next steps, is developing more leaders. But it does happen pretty organically, and it's important to hear it from different people. And that's another shameless plug. That's how Fast Forward helps as well. We're able to plug all of our agents into all of that. And so we're able to plug all of our agents into that. They're hearing it from different people. They're building relationships within different people from our network as well. So we're opening up that network to our agents, and we're bringing them to these events. They're building relationships across the country as well. So give them access to everything that we have.
So, you've created a situation, you've created standards that basically are high standards, right? You guys have high standards. We have high standards. Where do you see agents struggle most when they enter into a high standard environment such as yours?
Yeah, I think it still floats around today, but we've all heard that line. We got into the business because because it's flexible.
Right.
And that idea is a myth. I guess it is, it's as flexible as you can schedule it for yourself within your clients. And, and it's not a part-time job. It's a full-time job, or somebody that wants to do it as a side gig. And it's an all-in endeavor. And people struggle with that. People struggle with having to make a certain amount of conversations every day, when the daily job is like, we have to show up and have conversations every single day. That's, those are going to be the agents. The agents that aren't doing that are usually going to be the agents that see themselves out of the business, right? And it's just something we don't want in our environment. But just, I would say the day-to-day consistency is something that you'll see people struggle with. So
Right.
it's showing up every day. It's having conversations every day. It's being very learning based. Our agents that have developed the quickest are the most curious, being learning based, wanting to learn, wanting to collaborate, asking for help. It's funny that all of our top producers, we collaborate literally, I'm thinking like on every single deal. And maybe some of the people that aren't producing at the highest level, what you'll see is they start skipping the basics,
Right.
skipping the data analysis,
Right.
skipping the importance of having a voice-to-voice conversation
Right.
when negotiating a property, rather than doing everything through text or email, things of that nature. Those are the ones that start to forget about the basics. Our top producer, every listing appointment is on my calendar. He reaches out to me all the time prior to every single listing appointment. So we work together on everything. And I think the agents that think they have it all figured out, or skip the basics of the process, they start to struggle.
Okay, so can we get down to brass tacks? Can we get down to the nitty gritty of what agents need to do to grow their business? Can we get down to that right now?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome, cool. Because I had my conversation earlier this week with Brent Gove, whose name should not need introduction or explanation. He was talking about conversations.
Yeah.
He was talking about how many you need to have. He didn't give a number how many you need to have. He says you're having 3, you need to have 5. You're having 5, you need to have 10. You're having 10, have 20, have 30. Have as many conversations as you can every day if that's how you want to grow your business. Chris Heller, former CEO of Keller Williams, says that if you prospect and are on the phones consistently for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 90 days, your life will change. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, when we're talking about conversations, this is just an aside question before we get to the rest. What's a conversation? What's a contact, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, you call somebody up, they say, fuck you, and they hang up on you. That's not a conversation to me. Okay. So what's a conversation?
Yeah. So a conversation, how we track it is 2 minutes, 2 minutes or more. So if you're having a conversation that's 2 minutes and more, obviously involving real estate, asking real estate questions, that's a conversation, right? Contacts are exactly what you described there. So they picked up the phone. They picked up the phone. That's a contact. A conversation is and our benchmark for that when we're talking about is 5 a day, to have 5 conversations a day. Now, this isn't five conversations with your client that you're taking out every single weekend for the last 4 weekends. It's 5 new people every day. And I would say I'm definitely on the side of it doesn't matter how many. I would say the consistency of a lot of it matters, as long as consistent conversations and as many as possible, because it's the quality of those conversations, right? If we're having really strong conversations that are leading to referrals constantly, and we're just having 3 of those a day, that sounds better than 10 new expireds every day, or 10 new circle prospecting people that are 3 years out, like it seems. But I think those circle prospecting conversations are always longer term. So if you're always feeding that database of homeowners, imagine you talk to 5 homeowners a day and got 3 emails every single day, 5 days a week, it equals 15. Now you're 60 a month. You have 720 homeowner emails in your database by the end of the year, and you're constantly feeding into your email marketing. Over time, that's a humongous base of homeowners, right? So depending on what you want to do, I would say 5 is a good baseline, though, of those conversations, and doing it consistently. Even if you have to start out small, starting off with an hour a day, making 2 conversations so that you could do 90 minutes a day, that leads to 3 or 4. But the consistency of it, I think, is the most important part. The habit that we're building, right?
The habits that we're building. Okay. So let's talk about excuses and distractions, right? So someone says, say you have to prospect, or let's say, put it this way. It's recommended you prospect 3 hours a day on the phones, making calls, circle prospecting, expireds, FISBOs, whatever it is, whoever you're going to call. That's what you have to do. But Dave, I've got to make sure that I got the tech right. I got to use Follow Up Boss. I got to get Mojo, and I'm not sure how to use it. So I have to take the time to learn this thing. Or, expires. Where do I get the phone numbers from? How do I get the phone numbers? I got to skip trace what I got to do every one singly at the same time. There's all these questions. There's all these roadblocks that we all come into, Chris. how do we get around these, and how do we just not let them get in the way where we're still making freaking phone calls 3 hours a day?
Yeah. Just do it is one, right? That's just do it. But what we can do as teams and team leaders is we can help create an environment that's providing a lot, and that's making that process of all these questions that they have a lot simpler, having trainings through that, having videos that they can learn those things, and doing an onboarding of that where all those questions, concerns, like let's figure those out, because some of the logistics can be an issue, but at the end of the day we just have to do it and have these conversations. We can't judge what's working and what's not working if we're not doing it. So if you have the conversations, now we have something to work on. We can listen to those conversations back. We can see where we can do better. You can see what's working for you and what style you've adapted. But without having those conversations, there's no data to work from. So it just needs to happen.
Okay, so I got a couple of things. I'm on a roll here. All right, I talked about distractions. People are talking about AI, and people are talking about social media, and people are talking about, maybe I'll get an I'm sorry, maybe I'll get a virtual assistant to do these calls for me. Maybe I'll get this, maybe I'll get that. And basically, it's just, look, is it possible for an agent to be great at what they do, not worrying about what ChatGPT is saying about their stuff, not worrying about the new tech that comes out, and not worrying about Mojo or how to use Follow-Up Boss, just so that they're using it? Is it possible for an agent to work away all those distractions, and when they start making money and start doing better, they're able to organize their time better? Or is the time organization the most important thing about calling 3 hours a day?
So I think if you start to instill those habits of that, that's what you're trying to do early on, is create an agent who prioritizes their lead generation time, right? And that's going to be the most important today, tomorrow, next week, next year, et cetera. It's always going to be the most important thing. So if we could just master that part of our day and just do that, we have the rest of the day to kind of figure out some of this other stuff that we're talking about. But if you're creating the habit around the consistency very early on, when that roller coaster comes down and we start getting busy negotiating inspections during prospecting time, or doing showings during that, or going to appraisals at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of prospecting, when you instill those habits early, just, it starts to create the right type of habits and how to look at the business and the things that are the most important. It creates that really early. Because what you're going to see is exactly what you said. We get busy, we start doing all these deals, and now everything else is more important than the thing that got us these deals.
Right. So let me ask you a question. What's the most important thing to grow a business in a real estate business? We've answered the question. I'm just asking it to be a jerk. So it's just,
if you're growing a team, or if
no, I'm growing your own business.
Yeah,
it's prospecting is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right?
it's the amount of conversations you have. It's prospecting. And listen, it doesn't have to be the expired FSBO thing. Like, a lot of agents are crushing client events. I know agents that are running a huge team and their number one lead source is client events, right? But they're having a lot of conversation with those people that are coming to those events, and they built a community around that, and they've networked around that. So the amount of conversations that we're having is always going to be the most important thing. And it's not limited to real estate, it's sales in general.
Okay. So all right, I'm willing to do the calls, I'm willing to do the prospecting, but I hate scripts. I suck on the phone. I always panic. How do I fix that?
So I might be the right person to ask or wrong person to ask, depending on the answer we're looking for. But I think internalizing those scripts gives you a foundation to make it part of your natural conversation. So if we're learning all of these scripts, whether it's a circle prospecting script, whether it's a Zillow script, whether it's a FSBO script, we're learning all of these type of questions, which accumulates in the language of real estate. Now we just know the certain questions that to ask when we're having a conversation with somebody anywhere. You're internalizing all those scripts to develop your own language and develop your own style, which then gets the job done. If you're asking the right questions. So that's kind of how I looked at scripting. But early on, I learned them all, and then worked off scripts. And over time, with experience, you're then able to create your language around it and create your style and see what's working for you best.
Do the old scripts from 50 years ago still work?
any script that you use is going to work, right? Picking up the phone and just having conversations is what works, right? So it could be the new script, the old script, the in-between script. It's just have the conversations and it's going to work. So yeah, like a lot of some of the scripting we're using is on expired. It's still the same thing that we learned a long time ago. A lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So I want to get to the point of what the questions I just asked. One of the things that's been helpful for me, and I still do at least once a week, and I did it yesterday for about an hour, and was amazed at, you know what, I thought I was much better than I was. I use a product called SalesGo.ai or IO. I'm not sure. It's a role play computer, right? It's a role play situation, but it's role play because I don't really have. I can't call up Joe Blow and say, hey, let's role play for an hour because nobody really wants to do it. Is role play very important?
I mean, yes, we don't do enough of it, I would say. I do think it's important, and just being able to, you'll hear every prospect and coach just say, the same thing with an athlete, right? You have to warm up. Athlete just doesn't go out there and play the game. They warm up, they have those conversations. But I think it becomes important, when with different objections, if you're running into the same wall all the time, to being able to find solutions for that, maybe have role play around that, I think becomes important. Yeah.
Chris,
you're right about not everybody not wanting to do it though.
Well, that's absolutely the truth. I mean, look, your experience is very helpful to a lot of people, and how you help people is really fantastic, man. I really appreciate what you do. I mean, we're only involved on this kind of collaborative effect, and you and I will meet at events, and that's actually where we met a couple of years ago. It's very supportive to know and very helpful to know that there's a guy like you in a team in New Jersey. I mean, look, it's all Jersey this month, it seems, that really wants to help people. And I really would tell people, if you're looking for support in growing your business, double check to see who's helping you above you right now. And I'm going to tell you that they're not. But here's one of the final questions I'm going to have for you. And it's probably a question that most agents want to ask, but they won't, the ones that are struggling. And here's the question. Mm-hmm. I have to do a deal and close in 30 to 60 days. I need money right away. I've got no business now. I don't have a sphere of influence. What am I going to do?
I mean, open house is just the first thing that came to my mind. If I need a deal right now, it's like for us, it's like for our team specifically, it's like Zillow leads and open houses would be the first thing I say, because we're seeing these deals turn over, some really long, but really, really quick, where, if you take a volume of leads, there's deals in there right now, right? For agents that don't have those type of leads, I would say open houses are where people are most active. I would get into a relationship with a listing agent in your area and do first weekend open houses, not the open houses that have been sitting on the market 2-3 weeks. And then there's expireds and FSBOs. I mean, our ISA got if you're jumping right into it, there's FSBOs there's expireds from a while back that are ready to list right now. And we've seen experience with that where just get on the phone and you're going to get a listing appointment at a certain point if you make the most amount of if you're having the conversation, there's deals out there right now. So there's deals in a lot of forms, I would say, right now.
I'm starting to laugh because I call for sale by owners myself weekly, and I get caught up in something, and I'm gonna share it here because I guess others do too, because I want to share that. Is you get the excuse, well, I'm not in a hurry, I'll sell it when I sell it, and they've been on the market for 121 days. So how would you respond to that? Well, I'm not in a hurry. What I want to say is I want to jump through the phone and say, obviously, you momo. You really don't want to sell, you idiot. Do you want to sell or not?
We have one of those. It's funny you use that example because we do have one of those that we've kind of worked on more recently. And I don't do the best with for sale by owner. We'll see more success through circle prospecting expired. But I would say one thing there is, how long are you going to continue to do this before you start interviewing other agents, before you start interviewing realtors?
I'm not in a hurry.
Not in a hurry. Obviously, right? Obviously.
That's when it gets to a point where you keep going round and round. Says, well, obviously you're not in a hurry. I want to wish you the best of luck. Let me know if I can help you someday. Anyway, man, that was, I always think of that. You made me think about that because it was someone that I had this guy, just a quick story. I had this guy that refused to pick up the phone, but would text me. So I texted him. My system is that I call, text, email if I have all the information, right? And so I texted him, and the guy, he's texting me back in abbreviations. And I'm sorry, they're not millennial. They're not millennial abbreviations. I don't even know what the hell he's saying, right? So they tell me how busy he is, that I don't have time to pick up the phone. But he's going to go through all these abbreviations in a text. And I just said, you know what? Good luck to you, man. Yeah. I had no idea what the hell the guy was talking about. It was crazy. But anyway, stupid story. But anyway, hey, man, look, this has been a really great conversation. Is there anything aside from the last question I just asked you, how does an agent get business right away, that you want to talk about it as far as what the Oz Group is doing today and how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, my information's there below. Best place to reach out to me is Instagram. My phone number's there as also. I'm pretty available. I would just say, it's if you're an agent, the leadership that you're around and the rooms that you're in and the people that are within your network that are on your team, being able to collaborate with people, I think is that's been the number one game-changing thing in my career at every different level too, as an agent, as a developing leader, or somebody who wanted to be, and now as a leader, it's always the collaboration and it's the people we're around. Make sure you're in the right rooms. Make sure you have people that are truly helping grow your business, and be persistent about it. Mess it up a lot.
Right. Mess it up. Yeah. One of the sayings we used to use, and there was a gentleman that commented earlier, we used to make a mess and clean it up with progress. Right.
Yeah. I heard one recently that embarrassment is the most underused emotion. So go ahead and just make a fool of yourself.
Well, I intend to do that personally. I try to do it as much as possible. I want to thank you so much for coming on the broadcast today. Next week, we have Tony Tom coming on, wife of Travis Tom, and they have a product called Walled Garden. Travis has been on broadcast a couple of times. Tony's now, running the public part of the business. It's all about a great marketing effort for entrepreneurs and real estate agents called Walled Garden. They're going to be on next week. Hey, man, I got two things. One is a question. The other is a comment. The question is, how do I help you grow your business?
Collaboration, continuing to do what you're doing, right? Collaboration is it's really important, and the people that are around. So how can you help me grow my business? Continuing to be a good collaborator like you're doing and keep growing, and anything. You guys are crushing it everywhere in New Jersey, so I can't say throw us a referral down everywhere. You're already everywhere we are first. So keep doing what you're doing, man, and continuing to lead. That's the number one thing right now. And I said it earlier, right? I think there's still a huge gap in leadership in the, leadership, mentorship. And we've teams like yours. I mean, you guys have paved the path, right, to closing that gap. And I think we all need to continue to do that. We're in a me industry. And when you go from realtor to team leader, it's two different jobs. Be a leader, not a realtor.
Yeah. And absolutely. I mean, people say, the best marketer wins. I think the best leader wins, as well as marketing. But I want to thank you so much for being on. Really great stuff here. And like I said, before we forget, the hat is coming out to you, my friend. I want to thank you again for being on. Is there anything I can do for you? Let me know. All right, hey, guys, don't forget, we'll be here next week. It's going to be April 17th. Today is April 10th, 2026. Thanks so much for being on. We'll see you next week.